Aloha and welcome. In this section, we're going to be talking about sorting lists. So we've already talked about the sort method on the list object. So we have list.sort, and that's a very useful thing. We also have the ability to sort using a built-in function called sorted, S-O-R-T-E-D with parentheses. So there's one key difference between these two, and that is that when you're doing list.sort, that's going to do an in-place modification. So it's actually going to change your list. Whereas if you're using the sorted built-in function, it's going to return a copy of the list. So that's a very, very important distinction between the two. So if you're ever going to be doing sorts of lists, keep that in mind because it's going to have very different behavior there. So let's go ahead and take a look at a VS Code example that I've got here. So if you can hold on just a second, let's pull up VS Code. So we're going to start with a simple list. And I've just got some integers and one floating point in here. And there's a reason why I put the floating point in here. The reason is so that we can mix up and see how it's doing the comparison. So when we do my list equals these numbers, then we do a sort of it. I want to see what it looks like after it's finished with that sort. So when we run it, we get 2, 3, 3.0, and 3. So when it's comparing these things to make the sort, it's not differentiating between the 3 and the 3.0 here. And that's very interesting to note. Also note that when you're doing comparisons of each item in here, you need to have items that can be compared. So if I was to throw in something like an A here as one of the things, it doesn't know how to compare A to 3. It doesn't convert one to the other. So when you try to run that, you're going to get a type error. It's going to say with the less than sign, not supported between instances of string and integer. So keep that in mind. When you're doing something, lists can have, each element can be a different type. So you have to make sure that if you're going to do something like a sort, that you actually can, that all of your elements in that list are comparable in that sense to do that sort. So let's go ahead and remove that element again. And when we look at that, we get a nice 2, 3, 3.0, and 3. And that is what we expect. So not only can we do the sort with just standard, we can also supply it a key function, and that key function is going to do something to it prior to comparison. So like when we take an input from a user and we're going to use it, we like to do something like string upper, string lower, so that we can do a comparison and make sure that we're actually looking at yes versus capital Y yes, lower case yes, something like that. So what we do here is we feed it a key function, and that key function will do something to it prior to making that comparison. So as it says here, you can use any function like string.upper, string.lower. You can use max and min as well. So let's go ahead and uncomment this. And what we're going to do here is we're going to sort our list up here, but we're going to use the key function is going to be string. Remember that we can do something like string of some integer here, and it'll turn that into an integer. So we are going to send it the string function. Notice that when we send a string or we're using the string function here, we're specifying the string function. We're not putting the parentheses in here, because if we use the parentheses, it's actually going to execute string. So we're sending it the function name here, which is just going to be the str. So if you're doing numbers and you want to do min or max or something like that, you could do min and max, but again, you wouldn't use your parentheses here. So we're going to do a sort. We're going to send it, we're going to use sorted actually. We're going to use the built-in function this time as opposed to the dot sort function. So this right here, it's going to make a copy of my list. It's not going to actually modify my list. So we're going to go ahead here and we're going to specify the key function, which it's going to perform before it, which is going to be the string function. So it'll essentially convert string, each one of these to a string before doing the comparison. So when before we run that, let's clean that up a bit. So we're going to go and we're going to run it, and look at this. So before, when we were comparing them as numbers, we got 2, 3, 3.0, and 3. But when we convert it to a string, notice how we get 3, 3, and then 3.0, because the shorter one is going to go before the 3.0, because it goes to look at the second character. It doesn't have one. Look at the second character, it's a period. Nothing goes before the period. So the shorter string goes first. So it's doing a string comparison there, which is exactly what we should have expected. So one last thing about doing comparisons like this, we can also reverse our order of sort. So it's really nice. So if you're doing you've got a list that you want to put into order, but you want to actually reverse order it. So let's say you're wanting to list, let's say you're making a list of names. You could have it go from A to Z, but then if you wanted it to go Z to A, you could do that as well. You just put in the keyword reverse. So what we do, I've got an example of it right here. We'd say we're going to do a sort. We're going to use string as the function to do before actually comparing, and then we're going to say reverse equals true. So then when we run this, let's comment this out over here. And actually, no, let's just leave that in there. And when we hit the play, notice what happens here. Instead of 2.3.3.0, we have 3.0332. So this is exactly what we expected, because we said before that 3.0 is greater than the 3. So we're going to have the 3.0 at the beginning, the 3, and then the 2. So this is how that works. So the key points from this lesson, we have two ways to sort a list. One is using the sort method, the dot sort method, and the other is using the built-in function called sorted. They both work identically, except for the fact that the dot sort method does an in-place modification. It actually modifies your variable, your list, without you having to reassign it. Sorted, on the other hand, actually creates a copy. So that's the big key difference. But both of these functions will take a key function that you can use to perform on your elements before you make the comparison. And they also take the reverse argument, which tells it whether or not to reverse the order of the sort. So that is this lesson. It's pretty simple. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at my email. We can set up a Zoom lesson if you like. Just let me know, and I guess I'll see you in the next lesson.